I'm Nick,
I'm Chance.
and you're listening to Explorers Radio.
2020 year in review. It's been it's been.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about it.
So, what were what's the craziest thing that's happened this year, in your opinion? I mean, to you or in general? Obviously, barring the elephant in the room, what's the craziest thing that you've dealt with?
I would say just balancing work and my personal life. You know, the challenges that I've encountered in my personal life. Helping raise a child and taking on a new, kind of like a new life. It's exciting. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. But it's hard sometimes. And, you know, getting priorities in line and just paving way for our future, you know.
Yeah.
I would say that's been a big challenge for me and my girlfriend, helping raise the baby and you know, all that has been a wonderful journey. And it has been hard, but it's very rewarding, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I'd say that's been the biggest challenge for me, and you know, as well as just having to mature in that regard, mature in ways that I hadn't thought that I would have to mature in, but I do. And, you know, at my job, being in the role that I'm in, having to take charge more now when the bosses are not there, kind of being the guy that the unofficial supervisor in my department, having to make sure things get done the right way the first time, and, you know, taking on new responsibility there. So I would say for me, the biggest thing in a nutshell would be taking on new responsibilities this year has been my biggest challenge.
I feel that. I think that's definitely something a lot of people can relate to, just with the change of pace, you know, things have gotten harder financially.
Yeah, change of pace. That's right.
You know, it's just become a lot more important to, I don't know, just conserve, you know, especially financially, and you know, with jobs being kind of short and opportunities are more scarce. It's time's just in general becoming more valuable, I think. So that's one thing I feel like I've struggled with, is trying to use my time well. Because I've just moved, and so I've also kind of felt that similar change of pace, just trying to adapt to a new environment, and still looking for a job. You know, I have a couple of jobs right now, but just trying to, you know, pay the bills pretty much, like Chance was saying, and just trying to get by, you know, and yeah. So it's been interesting. This has been a crazy year. Just feels like out of a movie sometimes. Do you ever feel like that too?
I felt like that this past year. Didn't start to feel that way until about March. That's when things started to get real serious with coronavirus, a certain public health crisis.
Yeah.
Not necessarily something that I could say that I saw. I don't want to say that I didn't see. I mean, I did not see coronavirus coming. But what's interesting about this is that I have a few people that I know that are and have been in the military, and they have connections that are still within the government. And I was told very early on, like back in February, about how there's going to be a lockdown, and they're talking about shutting things down, having people stay at home. And apparently when people are talking about it in the government. When people talk about things, the more people talk about it, the more veracity you can attribute to what they're saying. Because there's a difference between rumblings and, I would refer to it as rumblings as opposed to preparation, if that makes sense. And that's what it was preparation. And I don't want to say that I didn't take it seriously, because I did, but I don't think I took it as seriously as I probably should have, at least in the beginning. I think all of us can say that. However, I think if you look in retrospect, the way things have gone, it hasn't been very smooth, if you want to call it anything. To put it lightly, it's been uncomfortable. And if you're going to say that, I mean, it's in short, 2020 has been a rough year for a lot of people. But I didn't necessarily think that I didn't anticipate the longevity of the effects of what this was doing to the society, our society, just in our nation in general. I mean, other countries is a different story, but I don't believe that it's going away anytime soon. That's for sure. I feel like I can say that for certain. It'll be at least a year before things return to the actual normal, because people are saying things are returning to normal now. No, they're not.
No.
I was in Walmart today and everybody had masks on, and there's these social distancing signs, and people are it's just weird when you go out. There's a sense of uneasiness now.
Yeah.
And I feel that, and you didn't used to feel that, because there's a difference between this and sometimes, you go out and you always want to be cautious of your surroundings. But now, since they're saying that this thing is airborne, you almost feel like nobody's safe, and you feel like, well, everybody's going to get it at some point, which I don't believe is true. It's possible, but I don't believe it's true. I wouldn't even go as far as to say that that's probable, but I've heard other people say that it is. You don't have, just because it's there, it doesn't mean you have to get it. But things have changed in a way that I never expected them to change. I thought this was going to be one of those things, everybody joked about Ebola and all that stuff, and it was a joke. And I thought it was just going to be something that lasted a month, maybe two, and then we kind of move on with the rest of our year, hunky-dory. Hey, remember coronavirus? Oh, yeah. Now we're going to be like, you remember coronavirus? And then everybody's going to be saying that they wish they didn't remember it because this has changed people's lives. I mean, people, especially small business owners, these people that have saved $1 million or invested, taken out $1 million business loan, and their business is only like 3 or 4 years old, and here they are shut down. Their whole lives are ruined. This has ruined people for the foreseeable future, and that's not mentioning the deaths and the lives that this thing has taken, and the pieces that families and wives and husbands and children are left to pick up now.
Yeah.
I've never seen. I'm only 23, but I've talked to people that are much older than me, and they're saying they've never seen anything like this. The closest thing to it that I've been told by much older people is the Spanish flu, which was many, many, many years ago. But I mean, there's not many people around that now that have lived through that. But if it's what I'm thinking of, it's the Spanish flu. But again, most everybody from then is dead and gone. When was the Spanish flu? Wasn't it like in the 30s or something like that?
I believe it was like 1917 or 1918. One of the
Yeah. Okay. Well, well then, yeah. So older people, they've mentioned that, and they're saying that um, this would be the equivalent.
That sounds right. I think economically, the closest thing we have to this is, some
Housing crisis.
the housing crisis or the even the Great Depression, which would be around the 30s. Because we haven't seen just like economic turmoil like this for a long time. I mean, this is like a once in a generation
I
type.
just remember whenever at one point gas prices were like five. It was like $5 a gallon
Yeah,
back in 2008, nine, and it's not like that now. But yeah, economically, um, we're not in the best of places.
it's interesting because there we had a overall inflation of prices for like kind of your regular commodities, so like your milk, your oil, your just all of your like essentials, right? um but now because of the pandemic and the way that it shaped out, it's like severely restricting travel, and people in general aren't willing to use all these services that are normally deemed essential and purchase all these goods. Now there was like an overall deflation, so it was the opposite effect, but it's the similar result in that the American people suffered. And yeah, gas prices dropped significantly, back in March and April. And what were they like 180, where we lived?
At some point, yeah, it was like 180, 182, something like that. Um, I do remember that there was a decrease, a significant, it was a substantial decrease in gas prices at one point.
Yeah. And that was just like kind of like a supply and demand thing. If I understand that right, it's just people weren't traveling, so it didn't make sense for uh, prices to be so high because demand was so low. But that aside, um, like you said, businesses really took the hardest hit. I mean, you had like something like 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 small businesses shut down since March, which I mean, that's crazy if you think about that. I mean, and they're closed down for good. Like they're not
Yeah.
temporarily, closing their doors. Like, I mean, there's a place at the beach that we went to a couple times when I was in college, through track. Our coach really liked to go there. We would go on like a beach trip and during cross country season each year. And that place shut down. I mean, it was like a kind of like a diner type vibe. I can't remember the name, but it was in Wrightsville Beach. So a lot of these like kind of mom and pop places, I mean, just absolutely like devastated by the you know, everything that's going on.
That's
So
exactly what's happened. What are your thoughts on what are your thoughts on masks?
masks are complicated because generally, um,
That's exactly how I would describe it as well. Complicated.
yeah, I mean,
I think
generally,
go ahead.
oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, generally, I think they work in terms of limiting exposure. Um, they don't protect you; they protect the person that's like interacting with you or kind of entering your space because it provides a barrier. I hear a lot of people saying that like their health is suffering as a result of wearing masks, and I don't really know if I buy that because
Well, go ahead.
oh yeah, I was
You
so
don't know if you buy that someone else's health is suffering because of masks.
yeah, so I've heard people say like some people that have allergies, for example, they say that their allergies are worsening as a result of them wearing masks and breathing in the same air. I don't think that that's actually a thing. I think I don't have any sources right now, but so this is kind of anecdotal, but if you just do a general um, search on the usage of masks and how they operate, there is no like mechanism for which like the recirculation of air is going to harm you in a negative way. Unless you're not cleaning your mask and you have bacteria building up on the inside, you're not going to have worsening symptoms of, you know, uh, current like allergy issues or anything, from my understanding. So I think the
I think
complications
that,
from, oh,
no, I'm sorry, keep. Well, I was just going to say, if you're not cleaning your mask, that could definitely lead to you developing something. Or like, I mean, getting sick. But that's the only thing I can think of that would cause the mask to be, that would have them, that would cause the mask to become harmful to you.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, because I think that the mask can decrease, it can limit your exposure to it from someone else giving it to you. And vice versa. If you cough in your mask, some stuff can still get out. Wearing a mask, it's one of those things. Wearing a mask is better than not wearing a mask. That's really what this is, because I mean, you can look at all the, I mean, there's medical grade masks you can buy at Old Navy and all that stuff, and it's just a cloth you put on your face. It's just like a piece of a t-shirt sewn into the shape of a mask. And I mean, that's it. And I mean, all it does is it can. I mean, would you rather have somebody cough or sneeze into that or on you? I would rather be into that, but
Yeah, me too.
I don't think that the masks are as effective as they want us to think they are. And if this thing really is airborne, then social distancing just completely goes out the window. It does not matter, a whole lot. Little, if not at all, actually, if this has become airborne.
I think it still makes a difference. But the question then becomes, what kind of distance do you really need between people to actually
All right.
truly protect yourself? Because 6 feet, if like you're saying, if it is airborne, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean it's like just everywhere and it's like throughout the whole world just floating around. It just means that that's like um its like method of transmission can be through contact or I'm sorry, not through contact, but through like an airborne like transmission or through some sort of like bacterial transfer.
You would have to stay further than 6 feet away to not to not catch that if it's that way.
Potentially, but they have done studies and they did these early on, and they demonstrated that like the masks were effective, at 6 feet at like reducing the like a number of like particulates that are reaching the person in front of you essentially. So it's like 6 feet was like the minimum distance that you needed to be to like start to begin to see a difference in like how much potential there was to transmit it, I guess.
Well, it's also not one or the other. It's supposed to be the mask and social distancing.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying, "Well, I have a mask, I'm fine," or "I'm staying 6 or more feet apart, I'm fine." It doesn't necessarily mean you are fine. It's supposed to be the mask and social distancing. And with that being said, these masks not being as effective as they want us to think they are still effective to a degree, but they're more effective when they're combined with used in conjunction with social distancing, and with the whole stay-at-home order, not going anywhere that you don't really need to go to. Working where I work, a big problem that we ran into was um, everybody wanted to come in and get things because they were off, and they treated it like a vacation. And it's not something that I can say was a good idea on their part. I don't think it should have happened. And I don't think that the company I worked for or worked for did a very good job at encouraging people to stay home. It was all come in, get what you need. We're here to serve you. I don't believe that the products that we sell are worth my health or the health of my family when I go home. Because it's just not worth it. Whatever you're using that stuff for is not worth it. And if you think it is, then I think you have, I think you need to reassess your priorities. If you were somebody that just went anywhere and everywhere during that during that time, and with no regard to anybody's other people's health around you, because there are people that came in there. A lot of them didn't have masks, and we wore ours, but it was very disheartening and annoying, quite frankly, just to experience that, how selfish people are, all for stuff that could have been done later. They just wanted to do it because they were off work, which I understand. But I mean, at what cost is all that? And it was a little disturbing.
Do you think that kind of like touches on something deeper?
Yes.
In the country?
Yes, absolutely.
Are we more like, are we less, I guess, kind of altruistic or good than we would like to think as a people?
Yes.
Generally more selfish,
the human race is not as good as it perceives itself.
I agree.
That's a totally different topic. And my beliefs on that come from a different source than yours, but the collective is that human race, people are, I don't believe that people are inherently good. I believe that people are inherently bad, but we can touch more on that in a later conversation. But it definitely reveals the real heart of people. I think that behavior and that selfishness, disregard for everybody else except themselves.
But what about Americans in general, though?
No, I think that Americans they're not as good as they want themselves to think.
Yeah, because I think we're kind of, nominally the symbol for like all that's good in the world, and I use like air quotes here, like everything that's supposed to go correctly and morally. But I think oftentimes like that's truly not how we operate as a people. It's like we're, we kind of are based in values that seem to be pretty all right and that seem to be good generally. But it's like the behavior that you've seen, that I've seen during this pandemic from our people, and I say our people loosely, I'm just mean Americans in general. It's like pretty sick at times. I mean, we have one of the highest death rates per capita, one of the highest like infection rates per capita. So it's like we're not really doing things correctly. And I'd like to say that a lot of that is associated with like just general selfishness. And I'm just saying, I'm suggesting maybe that's not something that exists everywhere in the world. Like maybe we are worse on that than other countries. I don't know how you feel about that.
Um, well, it's like that analogy that we were talking at one point. I gave you an analogy of how the U.S. has handled the coronavirus versus other places. It's like the kid on the playground that has a big old ice cream cone, and he's just having at it, and it's dripping all over his hands, melting, messy.
Yeah.
Cone is cracking. Cone, the ice cream is literally falling out of his hand as he's eating it. And then this kid next to him looking like, what in the world are you doing? And it's neat. It's not melting. He's got a napkin over it. He's licking it. He's enjoying it, and he's fine. And he's looking over at little boy America thinking, you're an idiot. And that's how I think we've handled this, you know? And I know that's how we are perceived by other countries because I've heard what people from other countries think about Americans and think about America in general now. At least the ones that are educated, because America, the U.S. is still the land of opportunity.
Yeah.
To a lot of people, there's a lot to be grateful for the people that have been born and lived here. But the people that know about things, who are educated and kind of up to speed on things, we definitely do. We look like buffoons. In comparison to other governments and societies on Earth.
Yeah. How do you feel like the media has contributed, or has it contributed, do you think, to like
It has definitely.
with like,
The just the misrepresentation of the situation of certain individuals and the pretty much the blatant lies, honestly, about people, certain people in power, about the virus itself, about the death rates. I don't think the media has been, it's been a driving force in excuse me, why and why things are the way they are, if that makes sense. Because it's definitely not doing the media and some news broadcasters in particular have not done a good job with accurately reporting the situation as a whole.
Yeah, I agree.
The agendas, the excluding of important and accurate information has got to stop. And also coverage on things that are just, there's so many other things that are going on that are important and things that nobody's talking about.
Yeah.
Good things and bad things. It's just there's a narrative that's being that's being stuck to, and it's being pushed, and it's being pushed whether we like it or not.
Well, I would suggest that there's two narratives, and that's kind of what I'm thinking is creating the chaos and has contributed to the chaos. And that this battle of two different narratives, they're really pushing and pulling the country, kind of dividing us, because you have certain people that are going to believe one narrative and certain people that'll believe the other narrative. It's hard to figure out what's the truth, some days of the week, because it seems like it changes every day. I mean, but one thing is certain, and it's that there are people that are really hurting right now, economically. And it's sad that nothing has been passed since the stimulus check. I mean, we haven't had anything. No, there's been no
Nothing.
relief, absolutely no relief for the American people since then.
And I didn't think that, I didn't realize, I didn't even know that the stimulus check was going to take as long as it took to get passed.
Yeah,
They didn't even want to do that.
yeah, that was sick. I mean, that
It
was only
was.
$1,200. I mean,
Yep.
that was nice. I mean, I'll admit that felt good. But $1,200, if you're someone that you're a family of four, and you're the only one working, maybe you have a stay-at-home mom, that's not enough money. I mean, you got two
No.
$1,200 checks coming in, and let's say you get laid off. I mean, that's just not, you know what I mean? Laid off or furloughed. I mean, there's been thousands of employees just in the airline industry that have been laid off. Disney employees, I think it was like 10,000 people laid off. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
insane.
It is insane.
Lorenzo, that's someone we know.
What happened to him?
He's one of our friends. He does the pastry chef lifestyle.
Oh, he got let go from that job in Miami.
Yeah. Shout out Lorenzo if you watch this. Shout you out. But yeah, he's one of our good friends. He lives in Miami.
He is.
He had some ups and downs with his career. I think he was like laid off at some point, and then he was brought back in, and then like had to work for a different company. So he's been back and forth from North Carolina to Florida, and he's not the only one. I mean, there are other people in that industry and in others, I guess, that have felt similar pains. And I mean, also there's this whole like working from home dynamic. Pretty much anybody that's doing some sort of office gig. We have another friend. It's actually my cousin's boyfriend who works for Google, and I mean, he's been working from home for, I want to say, almost 8 months.
Yeah.
I just can't. It's just life has really changed for people.
Well, and the thing with the working from home now I hear what's happening is some of those people are going to stay working at home even after the pandemic's over, because they've realized, the company has realized that, well, with the work that we're doing here, they can do it there at home. So, I mean, they're not really making them come back. A couple places that people that I know have done that, or they're said that they're just staying home, working from home now. And some people have been fired because for whatever reason they're wanting to. Some people that are working from home now have been let go and are not being allowed to be reintegrated to their work, just because they're wanting new people to come in that they don't want to have to pay as much, because they don't like the fact that we've been paying them to work from home. And we've had this person for a while. We'll just let them go and have someone else come into the office and pay them less. And a couple people I know that's happened to. So it's just it's sick.
It is.
Is the one word I can say to describe all this is sick.
Yeah, it really is. And like you said, it doesn't seem like there's any end in sight. It really doesn't. I mean, I've heard, this is scary. I've heard, through the financial market, like stock market, namely, do a lot of research. And I'm involved pretty heavily in that. And I've read reports that, or I guess read headlines that they are not expecting full recovery in some industries for up to like 3 years.
Wow.
3 years. I mean
Wow.
that's insane. So like we're talking like very similar to recession level recovery, I guess depression level recovery, after the housing crisis. We didn't really see a full recovery from that, which was about the same 3-4 years before, gas prices started coming back down and people started working again. Employment rates started dropping significantly. So we could be in the same boat. I mean, we really could, and with all the political madness that's going on as well, people, I don't think their problems are going to be addressed anytime soon. If they haven't
No.
now, why would they be after the next election? It doesn't make any
Right.
sense. If they
Well,
have,
yeah. I was going to say, depending on who gets in office, they may never be addressed.
I don't think they'll be addressed either way. I mean, because if you look at it this way, why hasn't it been addressed by now? They're
That's
all
true.
playing politics. If they would have,
Yep.
if they wanted to do something, they would have done it by now.
Exactly.
In my opinion, you have the Democrats that are supposedly wanting to pass something, but likely they only are rejecting working with the Republicans on the basis that they don't want to give the Republicans credit for anything that's actually passed, which is ridiculous. It shows
Yeah.
how selfish that is. And then on the other hand, you have the Republicans who like apparently want to pass something, but at the same time haven't done it yet. They could pass it, at any moment with an executive order, but still hasn't. There's been no, follow up to the initial stimulus. So I don't know. I'm not too optimistic on that. I don't think. I mean, you've had people that clearly say there's not going to be any more cooperation. There will be no more deals, no more relief packages. That's what I believe. I don't think there's going to be anything else. No help is coming, and it's sad to say.
Yeah, that's really sad to say, but that sounds about accurate.
Yeah, it's sick, like you said. It really is. I mean, this is a movie.
This is.
It's just one sick movie, man. And I think what some people they think it all started with. I mean, this is not obviously not true, but they think it started with like Kobe Bryant's death, because Kobe Bryant died in January of this year, and that's where they felt like things started like getting crazy. And I mean, yeah, obviously that was a crazy event, but I don't think that was like the catalyst, like Kobe Bryant is
Yeah.
like starting this end of the world, like because
No.
there were other people that died this year, and it was really sad. It was like Chadwick Boseman, the Black Panther.
Yeah.
There was
There's also Eddie Van Halen's died.
yeah, from one of music group, right? 80s.
Yep, he was from Van Halen, yeah.
Van Halen.
And he's dead. I believe Kenny Rogers died this year. Another actor died. Who was that? That died this year? Not Black Panther. We already said him. Somebody else. I can't remember.
There were
Somebody else.
there was a politician or two. I mean, there was like
Yeah.
one of the guys from the civil rights movement. I know passed away. I think did John McCain pass away this year, or was it last year?
I think that was last year.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's a crazy. I don't know if that part is like any crazier than normal because people die every year and it's crazy, and every time it happens people are like, oh my gosh, I never, like, how could they have died, because we kind of idolize them, so it's like the fact that they died is like somehow more significant than like anybody that died from coronavirus. But the reality is a
Yeah.
lot of people died this year, and it's super sad, but it's just, on one hand, it's just part of life. On the other hand, it's like it is partially in response to this deadly, virus that's, around right now. But everything is just different. I think everybody can agree on that. It's different.
I would agree. Hopefully next year brings a little more. Hopefully we can be a little more jovial next year.
I hope so too, man.
A little more convivial.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding, man. But I'll tell you what, man, one thing's certain. If anything happened during the pandemic, I think I really learned to appreciate, the time I had with, friends and family and all that stuff, because it did give me a lot more time to hang out with everybody back home. And, as selfish as that is, it was nice. And,
Yeah, it was.
yeah, and we had some good times, and I knew that I was moving anyway, but just having those extra weeks, just to see everybody it was super fun. And
Yeah, that was fun.
definitely don't regret that. So
Yeah, I don't either. I'm glad we had that.
yeah,
I mean, man, and who knows? Maybe this happening put us and other people on a course of their lives that it would have turned out not so good in the later far future if we hadn't been put where we are now because of this. You never know.
I believe that. I know one thing is certain. I would have 100%. I would not be in San Diego right now if the pandemic didn't happen. Because the only reason I moved to San Diego was because I visited San Diego, and I never had intended to go to California this summer. I never was going to do that. That was like a last minute thing because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So I would have been in San Francisco, which would have been different. And who knows? I'm sure life would have been different for you as well. For everybody,
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
maybe
I would say so.
But yeah, we'll have to see, man. We'll see.
Time will tell.
Yeah. But
we'll be back next time.
yeah, tune in next week, and we'll have hopefully our first guest on and be able to hear from someone else.
Hopefully.
And should be a fun ride. We have a couple.
It'll be a sick ride.
Yeah, it's gonna be a sick ride. We have a couple of fun topics in mind. We don't want to give anything away yet, but they're pretty,
all will be revealed.
They're pretty raw, if you know what I mean.
Yes, they sure are. We're gonna have to have a seat for those.
That's right. We're gonna take a chance and
yeah.
and talk about them, so.
Yeah, I hear they're starting up again.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, that'll be fun. All right, well, that concludes another episode, so we'll see you guys next week.